So we're on Tzadik Zion, 97. So, Yachol af lifnei Pesach kain. That means, let's say you found a tmura, right? You made a tmuras Pesach, and you found it before Pesach. Maybe you should also offer it as a shlamim. Talmud loymar who karev, only the original Pesach that is found after Pesach. It's a moiser Pesach, can be offered as a shlamim. But ain't tmuras a Pesach crave, but not tmura. So, Hechidami, what's the case? Now, if this was a case, remember, where you originally designated an animal, then it got lost, you designated another one, and then you found the original one. And let's say you found it before Shechita, and Eimer bo kodem Shechita, and you made the Tmura before the Shechita of the other one. Pshita, that it's not kreva, because it was nidche. Remember? In that case, you'd have the two animals before, and you'd have to choose one of them that you're going to shech for the Korban Pesach. So the other animal becomes a nidche. So certainly that cannot be korev. We wouldn't need a pasuk for that. El alav must be, we're talking about shenimsa koidem shchita ve'emir bo achar shchita. Yeah, you had found it before shchita, but you made the tmura after shchita. Now, before, Rava had said you could still make, it could still be korev. Well, from here we now learn from the pasuk of who that the Tmuras HaPesach made in that way is not korev. Tiyufta de Rava, tiyufta. We knocked him out of the box. Now, Omar Shmuel, Kol Shebechatus Mesa. We learned many times when we went through Kodshim that there are 5 types of certain situations if you had designated a chatas. So, for example, if you have a vlad chatas, you had designated an animal that gave birth. So there's a child of a chatas. Or you made a tmura of a chatas. Or somebody designated a chatas and the owners died before it could be offered. Or somebody designated a chatas, but they lost it. And they got another animal, and the other animal was offered, and the person had kapara, and then they found the original animal. That's a chatas shniskapru bala. And a chatas that is too old, that is more than 1 year. So in those 5 cases, the din is you have to, the chatas has to be killed. Now, we don't kill it biyadayim. We kill it by putting it into an igloo, and we don't feed it. And it dies by itself. Now, in all those examples, if it happens to a Pesach, for example, the Vlad of a Pesach, or Tmur of a Pesach, all the examples we gave, but Pesach Korev Shlamim, you don't have to kill the animal. In fact, the animal could be offered as a Shlamim. That's what Shmuel says. And then, Kol Shebechatas Royeh, if there's some kind of defect, which the Gemara will explain what it is, where you have to send the animal to graze until it gets a mum, so but Pesach Nami Roya, a Korban Pesach, that if the same situation happens to a Korban Pesach, it's also put out to pasture until it gets a mum. Rav Yochanan Amar Eina Pesach Korv Shlamim, that the only time a Pesach is offered as a Shlamim, El Sheninsa Achar Shchita. Only after the second animal was found after you shechted the first animal. Aval Koidim Shchita, but it was found prior to Shchita, lo. Then it's not Korev Shlamim. So Maski for Rav Yosef, Uklalahu, is it a rule that all the chatases that go to pasture, that if the same thing happened to a Pesach, it also goes to pasture? A chatas that became more than 1 year old. The din is that that animal is put to pasture until it gets a mum. Where do we see that? Chatas that became more than 1 year. the Kohen cannot have any access to it. It's as if the animal was in a cemetery and the Kohen can't get it. And therefore, it's because you cannot offer an animal that's more than a year. So it's not like it's a puzzle dick and korban. It doesn't meet the criteria. However, ilu b'Pesach ki I governor korv shlomi. But a Pesach like that if it's over a year old, can be offered as a shlomim. So it doesn't fit the rule that anything that you do to a chatis to lead to re'iyah, the same thing happens to a Pesach. We see here it doesn't happen like that. Because the Tanya, Kesev, says in Kesev umakriv, the rabbi says a Pesach la'alya, that the tail of a korban Pesach can be offered if it's a sheep. Kishu oimer im Kesev, what's the im? L'rabbis es a Pesach she'aver shnasa. That a korban Pesach that became too old, became more than 1 year old, you can offer it as a shlomim. And shlomim aboy machmas Pesach, l'chol mitzvah shlomim shutunin smicha. Any animal, korban Pesach, that's offered as a shlomim, has all the dinim of a shlomim. Tu'unin smicha, you have to lean on it. Nesachim, you have to do wine libations. Tenuvas chazav v'shok, you have to wave the breast and the thigh. Then kishu oimer im eis, if it's going to be a goat, hifsika inyan, to tell me limit ala shein ton aliyah, that a goat you don't offer its tail. So we have a kasha. How can you tell me everything that happens to a chatas goes l're'iyah? By Pesach goes to re'iyah too. Here it's an example where by chatas it goes l're'iyah, and by Pesach you can offer it as a shlomim. Omer le kiko Omer Shmuel ba'avudin. Shmuel's din is only the cases of a chatas where it was lost, you offered another because you chose another, and then it was found. Then whatever happens to the chatas happens to the Pesach. But betchuyin, when something was nidche because of a different type of psul, not that you lost it and you designated another animal in its stead. We're not talking about that kind of invalidation. Here it's an invalidation based on its age. Shmuel never said the din by d'chuyin. Freik the Gemara of Ovud mimishkachas law. So I will still show you a kasha, that even the way you want it to be metaritz, like Shmuel, like we just did in the name of Shmuel, that when Shmuel compared the chatas to a Pesach, he only did it based on the cases of losing the animal and then finding it again. I'll show you it doesn't work either. So let's say you were mafresh a chatas, and then you lost it. And then you were mafresh another one. And then you found the original one before you were makriv anything. So now you have two animals in front of you. So lirabanon, diliriya azla. So according to the Chachamim, we're going to see that the animal that was lost goes to l're'iyah. Okay. The key's up in front. The key must be in the front. This nan hifrish huh? It's got to be there. Sue, it must be on the plastic there. Sue, did you find it? This nan hifrish chatos over avda. My key? Yeah. Okay, I must have left it on the desk upstairs. Because when I got the computer, I must have left it on the desk there. Disnan, hifrish chatos over avda. A person needed to bring a korban chatas. He designated an animal to be the chatas, and then he lost it. The hifrish acheres tachteh, and then he needed another animal. The nimtzis harishon. Now, before he shechted anything, he found the first one. V'harei shtei noimdois. He has two animals in front of him. Achas mehen tikarev. He can choose which one to offer. Ushnia tamus. And the second one is put to death. Divrei Rabbi. Those are the words of Rabbi. The Chachamim oimrim ein chatas meisa ela shenimtzis la'achas niskapru bailin. The Chachamim say, yeah, the only example where the chatas is put to death is if it was found after you had offered one of the animals for kapara already. implying ha-koidim shniskapru bailim. Let's say you had it before the bailim were niskapir roya. So you don't put it to death, according to Chachamim, it's sent out to pasture. Now, the Ilu ba Pesach, regarding a korban Pesach, Hechen do Ovad. In a case where you had designated and it got lost, and then v'nimtza achar chatzois korban shchita, let's say you found the original animal after chatzois, but before you shechted the new animal, the din is karev shlamim, and it doesn't go l're'iyah. So more says Shmuel karebi svirale. You can say Shmuel doesn't hold like the Chacham. He holds like Rabbi de Omar, that avuda lamisa azla, that an avuda goes lamisa, and not karev shlamim, because that's why Shmuel said it's not karev shlamim, it goes l're'iyah. V'hakol avuda l'Rabbi Mesa. The ilu b'Pesach heicha the ovid kodem chatzois, if it was lost prior to chatzois, v'nimtza kodem chatzois, and still lost and found before chatzois also roya. So the Gemara says kodem chatzois lav ovidhu. Chatzois before chatzois is not a time that you can offer the korban Pesach, so it's not considered avud. The only time avud is if you could offer it then. So kidarava damarava avedas laila lav shme'abit. Let's say you have an animal, but you lost it at night, and then you find it before daylight. That's not considered avuda. Nothing happens to that korban because you can't offer the korban at night. Therefore, if you lose it at night, it's not considered a problem with the korban. So, ela leroya heichim ishkachas lo. What's an example for Rebbe that you would send an animal l're'iyah? Let's say a person needs to bring a korban chatas, and he's concerned that he might lose one. So in the beginning, he designates two animals. One is la'achrayus. One is like a guarantee that if one of them is lost, he'll bring the other. So hifrish techatos la'achrayus, and then he's miskapir ba'achas mehen. He offers one of them shniya tireh. So in that's example of a chatas, even according to Rebbe, that would go to pasture. But we still have a problem because Shmuel said that anything that happens to a chatas that goes l're'iyah, if the same thing happens to a Pesach, it also goes l're'iyah. But v'ha'ilu b'Pesach ki ha'gavna korban shlamim. But it's not the case by a korban Pesach, i.e., if you designated two sheep prior to the korban Pesach as the korban Pesach because of achrayus, you want to guarantee, and then you offer one of them, the other one you can offer as a shlamim. So you see, it doesn't follow Shmuel's rule. Ella says the Gemara, Shmuel Reb Shimon svirale. Shmuel is holding like Reb Shimon. The Omar, chamesh chatois mesois. Shmuel says, Reb Shimon says, all five of the examples that we mentioned, they're put to death. In any situation. Chatas shechibru ba'aleh, and chatas that was nevad, and the chatas that the miskap that the bailim died. So the question is, va'royal Reb Shimon less like klal. Reb Shimon doesn't have an example where it goes to graze. It always goes lemisa. So the Gemara says Shmuel nami chadika amar. Shmuel also only meant his din in one example. Kol shebechatos mesa, but Pesach karv shlamim, and he didn't deal at all with re'iyah. He really only said one din. Any example by a chatas where there you would put it to death, if the same situation happened to a Pesach, it would be offered as a shlam. My kamashmalan. What is the chiddush of Shmuel? Afuk Rav Yochanan. The Amar Eina Pesach karv shlamim, ela shenim tzarach shchita. Rabbi Yochanan says the only example of a korban Pesach that is offered as shlamim is if you had designated an animal, it got lost, you designated another, and then you shechted the other, and then you found the original one. Aval kodem shchita lo, but if you found it prior to shchita, it would not be offered shlamim. Alma shchita kava. The designating factor is when you shecht it. And the other person holds Kamash Shmuel Chatzois Kova. No, it's not the act of Shechita. If you did it prior to Chatzois, there's no din of Aveda. If you do it after Chatzois, there's a din of Aveda. Okay. Lish Nachrina. There's another version. The Ilu B'Pesach, when it comes to the Korban Pesach, Heicha do Avad, when you had designated an animal, then you got lost. And then you chose another animal. And then V'Nimtza, and when did you find it? Achar Chatzois Kodim Shechita. You found it after Chatzois, so it is Man Shechita, but you hadn't shechted the other animal. The din is, the animal that you found, Yikrav Shlomim. Therefore, Shmuel Karabas Virale, the Omar Shechita Kova. He says it's not Chatzois. He says, we don't care if it was found before Shechita, it's not. He says Shechita determines it and not Chatzois. Now, Rabbi Yochanan on that din said, the only time a Korban Pesach can be offered as a Shlomim is if it was found after Shechita of the other animal. Aval Kodim Shechita lo. Alma Shechita Kova, not Chatzois. Michlal the Shmuel, so Chatzois Kova. So the way you try to say Shmuel holds doesn't come out according to Rabbi Yochanan. El Shmuel Karebi Svirale. The Omar Avuda Lamisa Ozla. Rebbe held that when an animal was lost and then found, it always goes Lamisa. Now, Rebbe Mason, if all of these cases go to death, now if you're going to tell me that if by a Korban Pesach that was lost before Chatzois and also found before Chatzois goes to Re'iyah, Ksavar holds like that sheet that we talked about today, that Korban Chatzois lav avodu, because Ksavar Chatzois kava, not Shechita kava. And that's the Lishna Achrina. It's a different way. It comes out in the same way that the Machlokes is whether Shechita is kava, whether Chatzois is kava, but they got there a different way. Okay, Mishnah. Hamafrish. Now, by the way, tomorrow night we will learn at 7 p.m. like we've been learning. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct, Mario?
Yeah. Okay,
I think we should learn a little bit later.
Okay, what time is Shabbos over?
6:34.
I think 7 o'clock would work. Otherwise, I think 7 o'clock should work. We have a half hour, right?
25 minutes, yeah.
You want to learn at 7:30? I mean, whatever you guys want. 7:15? What do you guys want?
Maybe
I would prefer 7:15. It's very hard
7:15
by the time I
is
get
fine.
back from shul.
Okay, Johnny, is that okay? 7:15?
Yeah, I suggested 7:15. Yeah, fine.
Okay, good. Let's do it 7. Mario, put it out 7:15.
All right.
Mishnah. The Korban Pesach is supposed to be a male. So if someone, Amafrish Nekeva Lepischo, somebody designated a Korban Pesach. O Zocher ben Shtei Shonim. It's supposed to be less than a year. And you chose a male that's 2 years, which is not Roy. The din is Yira Achi Yistoiv. You let it graze until it gets a moon. V'yiplu damav l'nedava l'shlamim. Then you don't, once it gets a moon, you can't offer it as a korban. So then you take the money and you buy another animal and you offer it as a shlamim.
Ernie, we're going to the next plat.
I know.
I'm going to stop it and start again. One
Okay,
sec.
fine. Just